Janet has said that she used to get her mum to help her peg out the washing. And actually, it wasn't always about the pegging out of the washing. It was about it providing the opportunity to just give it, give something meaningful. Actually, help. Can you come and help me do that?
So if you're fortunate enough to have a front garden, I would definitely recommend just sitting out there and taking in the world. If not, just sit there and listen to your favourite songs. And if you're fortunate enough to have company, taking turns. I'll pick a song, you pick a song, and you can discuss memories of the song, why it's your favourite. I think that's something, I'm biased, that's something I would enjoy doing.
I'm going to stop our conversation because we've gone live now. So thank you to all of you who have joined us. We've got a really lovely session today. You will hear from Gordon and Courtney, who I will introduce in a second. But today we are going to be unpacking getting out in the garden and what that looks like and how we can do that. Because if you didn't know, this month is National Picnic Month. So we have been hosting some big green picnics. And the idea of this is really just to support those living with dementia and those supporting somebody to get out, maybe have a picnic, enjoy a bit of lunch, but really get those benefits from getting outdoors. I've been incredibly lucky today to be joined by my colleague from Dementia Adventure, Gordon, and from Courtney, who's actually hosted one of these picnics. So, Courtney, I'll come to you. Are you okay to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Courtney and I work for Right at Home. We're a home care company in Cardiff and
Brilliant.
office.
Lovely thinking. You hosted a picnic for us on Tuesday, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, so
And tell
Tuesday
us a little bit about that.
afternoon. It was lovely.
Lovely.
So we were really lucky. We regularly attend a dementia cafe in a local care home, really local to the office. And when we were telling them about our charity partner, they kindly invited us to collaborate with them and they would host it for us. And they sort of integrated it with a party day that they had planned for their residents. So we felt really lucky because they've got beautiful grounds and then they've got a beautiful conservatory. So if the weather hadn't been in our favour, we had the
Yeah.
opportunity to take it inside. But fortunately, the weather was beautiful, so it really made the day.
Perfect. I can't wait to hear more about that. And Gordon, you've joined us today because you are our lead predominantly on our professionals training, but you're bringing all that outdoor knowledge and experience to us. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi Ruth. Thank you so much. So yeah, I have the privilege of working at Dementia Adventure as the training and partnerships lead, which means that I get to do all the lovely stuff of organising and helping inspire organisations to realise that there are so many health and wellbeing benefits for people living with dementia to get outdoors, that it's just about raising awareness and actually enabling people to understand that small things can make a huge difference for the rest of the day and often, for longer for people living with dementia based on the symptoms that they're experiencing. So it's just understanding how powerful that connection with nature can be.
Brilliant. So I think really let's get started. And, for Gordon and I at Dementia Adventure, we are really passionate about getting outdoors. But I think often we know it's good for us, but I want to unpack a little bit of why that is. So, Gordon, why is it that getting outside is particularly beneficial for people living with dementia?
Well, we know now that getting outdoors is beneficial for all of us. We know that it's good for our mental and physical well-being. But Dementia Adventure was set up as a charity to look into what does that mean for people living with dementia. And so we've done our own research into specifically looking at what changes, what improves when somebody living with dementia gets outdoors, starts to connect with the great outdoors and nature. And our research that we undertook with Natural England really proved some fantastic results in terms of that obviously, because of the way that symptoms progress for people living with dementia, that obviously they can sometimes have their sleep disrupted, their eating patterns disrupted. They can become increasingly anxious sometimes, struggle with depression or anxiety or agitation. But getting outdoors helps with all of those things. So we looked at what does it mean? What can we do? And actually we looked at the time. How long does somebody need to be outdoors to just get those health and well-being benefits? And it was really interesting. And our research has been developed by other research partners around the UK and around the world, looking that we found that, just 15 minutes spent outside can be really beneficial to actually increase somebody's eating, improve their sleeping, reduce agitation, and just that improve that feeling of well-being because it reduces our stress level, our cortisol level. And again, outdoors, we can just be in the moment. We don't have to be pressurized by having to answer lots of questions, that we can just appreciate what we see, experience things through our senses, and then that can be really triggering in terms of reminiscence and conversation, which often for some people living with dementia can become increasingly difficult over time.
Thanks, Gordon. Courtney, I'd love to bring you in here because obviously running the Big Green Picnic, is that what you witnessed when you ran that experience on Tuesday?
Absolutely. And I think even just down to socialising with people that you wouldn't typically socialise. So, like I said, we did it in a care home. They kindly hosted
Mm,
it for us. So, to take some of our residents that receive care at home and don't often get the opportunity to go out and socialise with other people or, just be in a completely different space within the local community, it was just a beautiful thing to witness and to see them all interacting with each other. And it was just such a
yeah.
positive day. It was really beautiful to be a part of it.
Because I think often, the world we know gets a lot smaller when we're living with dementia, and social connection is so important. And I think it
Huge.
can be really challenging for carers to, learn how to make those new social connections when we're supporting somebody with dementia. But you saw that actually that was really lovely. And was there peer support between those carers as well when they were there?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we were liaising with the care staff within the home and our registered manager came along, our marketing team, myself. It was just lovely. The carers that brought our clients. It was just really nice for everybody. It was just such a positive day. It really was beautiful to be a part of it. It was so lovely to watch. And, especially for people that receive care at home, I think the day can be such a long day when you've got nothing but your thoughts to accompany
Yeah, I
you.
agree.
But to
Yeah.
see people engaging in conversation and, dancing along to the music and singing along to the music, I'm a big believer in music is a huge therapy for people with or without
Mm.
dementia. And to see how many of the residents and the clients that do suffer with dementia, really getting involved and remembering the music, it was just beautiful. It was a really lovely day. I'd do it
Oh,
again
it
every
sounds
day.
amazing. I think what I loved was when we were talking earlier, you said actually it really didn't feel like work. And I think
It
sometimes when we
didn't.
get out, it just doesn't, does it? It feels
It
like we were
really
all having a really
didn't.
lovely experience.
The
So
day flew by. I think I looked at my watch once and I thought, oh my goodness, it's the end of the day. It's the end of the working day. It was crazy how fast the day went. And everyone seemed to feel the same. And they were relatives of the clients and the residents there as well. I keep saying it, but it was just such a lovely day. It was such a nice
that's
day.
amazing. And Gordon, I'm going to come back to you because I think, hosting a picnic and experiencing some of the big green picnics is amazing. And we've been incredibly lucky to see those, happen up and down the UK. But often when we're supporting somebody with dementia, getting out for a picnic feels really big. Sometimes just getting out of our front door can feel quite challenging. So if we were to adapt that, say, and take a picnic out into our garden, are we still going to get those same benefits? Does it always need to be some big adventure for want of a better terms, or actually can those small moments outside be as impactful?
Absolutely, they can. Yeah, because I think what we need to understand is that, as Courtney's just identified, that socializing in an environment that where people can get together is precious, is really, a very, very special time because living with dementia or caring for somebody with dementia can sometimes be really isolating. But as a couple, if people are living in their own homes together, that it's very intense sometimes. And if we're indoors, then the environment isn't changing very much. Whereas just taking the simple things that we do inside, outside, such as taking a cup of tea, taking our breakfast, taking our lunch, and going and sitting outside, we've automatically then got things that are ever changing in front of us. Our weather in the UK, apart from the heat wave that we're having at the moment, is not particularly changing. But our weather is usually ever changing, and our gardens, the outside spaces. Courtney was talking about the triggering. Of music and how important that can be to stimulate and actually, enable people to connect. Well, at Dementia Adventure, we've actually researched that nature's music, nature sounds, not just the wind, the rustling of the trees, the leaves in the trees, but bird song is incredibly powerful and again, helping people connect. So for people supporting somebody living with dementia who often feel that they're not sure what, sometimes what to talk about, or they haven't got things to share. By going outside, they can actually do small things, share the experience, but have a great time.
Amazing. And actually, I've had a couple of questions come through that I'd really like to address. And Courtney, I'm going to start with you if you don't mind. In two contexts, really, but basically the question's the same is how do we encourage somebody to go outside if they don't want to go out? So we've got one of our carers here has said that, the person they're supporting has recently had a fall. So I think it's about that confidence of getting outside. But I think also there's often a natural, you know what, this is really hard for me. How can we support people? And how do you do that with the groups that you work with?
I think preparation is key. So we gave our clients a lot of notice. I mean, for the residents, it was different. That's their environment
Yeah,
that they're used to. They feel safe in. They're used to the staff. They're supporting them. So it was very different for them. It was like a normal day in the home, but with celebration. So very different for them. For us, we gave our clients a lot of notice. So we have a weekly newsletter. We have a constant line of communication with our clients and their relatives and their next of kin. So we were able to foreplan what was going to
and
happen.
talk it so it's letting people know
Yeah,
what they can expect, what they might see on the
exactly.
day, so they
Yeah,
can share that with their person they
and
support.
managing expectations as well and making arrangements that make them comfortable. So really telling them, what the plan was for the day, offering familiarity with the carers that they're used to, being able to support them, even just to
Mm,
drop them off and pick them up. That
yeah,
offers a sense of security as well, I think. In terms of somebody lacking confidence and, not wanting anyone to be left out and not wanting to go outside, I think I'd be a bit of an advocate for bringing the picnic to them. I mean, even if they don't want to venture out into the garden, have music playing in the garden if you're fortunate enough to have a garden. Open a window, open your blinds, open your back doors, French doors, whatever you have, just so they still feel that connection to the outside. But I think the
yeah.
biggest thing I took away from it was the socialization and being able to communicate with other people and people that you wouldn't typically communicate or engage with. And it's just offering that different opportunity and experience. And then who's to say that the next time you do it, they will want to venture outside or they will want to engage and partake in the activities you have. But yeah, we really managed expectations with, a lineup, if you like, of what the day was going to look like. So there'll be food at this time, there'll be music. We had a performer, a live artist catch, who was amazing. So, they're coming at this time, and then we arranged a rise session, which is like a seated activity and sport session, for the afternoon to sort of round the day up. And then there were a couple of games in between, and we just tried to make it as appealing and as fun. And, there's no pressure for anyone to, engage
Yeah.
in anything or have to take part in anything. They could just sit back and watch if they wanted to, which many did.
And I think what's key to what you're saying there is that when you give people that level of notice, it allows the opportunity for any anxieties that may rise, any questions that may have to be sort of like flattened out and worked through with yourselves. Would that be right?
Absolutely. I mean, I was nervous going in.
Yeah.
I'd never arranged anything like this or been responsible, partly responsible, obviously, with the care home for how the day was going to go. I mean, the care home took the lead on the activities. They were absolutely fantastic. I won't take any of the credit for it. I'd love to because it was so good, but I can't. But yeah, definitely planning and really managing those expectations and just giving a clear outline of what the day ahead was going to look like. I think that really helped. And also the no pressure, if you want to engage and take part, you can, and we'll support you to do that. If you don't, just sit
So
back
be
and watch. You're
it.
still a part of
Yeah.
it, just because you're not doing it yourself. We had a human slot machine game, and they'd made three boxes, and there were different fruits on sticks, and three of us and the staff would, hold up. It was just a bit of fun. It was really fun, but so many people you could see were enjoying just watching others have a go. It wasn't about them doing it themselves. And again, with the Rise session, so many of the residents and clients took part in it. Others were just watching from afar with relatives. Relatives got involved, dancing when the singer was performing. It was lovely.
Brilliant. And Gordon, taking the same question, but I think, if we're going to be talking about those smaller experiences, how can we really support somebody to step out into what's on their doorstep or encourage somebody to do that when they may have lost confidence?
It's small steps. It's about obviously finding out, what the person would like to do, what the person living with dementia is passionate about, is interested about, and then obviously planting those seeds of to entice them, to encourage them, to motivate. We often work with couples that again sometimes need to use a bit of encouragement through finding something that may motivate. So for
Mhm.
somebody, going out and having, making sure that their favorite food is on the menu, making sure that they're going to a favorite spot that has a particular significance or meaning meaning to them. Because often, if people don't have their own green space, their own garden, their own space to share, they may have somewhere where they've been to traditionally, locally, and that doesn't have to be a great distance away. Again, small spaces can mean, a great deal to people. They can have a lot of connections for when they used to have children or places they visited. Or so I think finding that special spot. And also sometimes it's getting other friends and family to help with that encouragement. Because being a carer is a very intensive role, and actually we're always the solution or the motivator. Whereas actually sharing that, because often our friends and family members might say, well, can I do anything to support? Can I do anything to help? Well, to actually then give somebody that role to say, well, I'd really love you to talk to them about how wonderful it is in the local park at the moment. The flowers have come out, the flower beds are looking stunning. It'd be great for us to go and have an explore and an adventure together. Because if it's often sometimes comes from somebody else, a suggestion comes to somebody living with dementia, and it's from somebody outside of the house, they're much more willing and enthusiastic. So again, it's almost like giving them the opportunity of them to suggest it, but
Mm.
obviously they have to be fed that idea and suggestion. But again, I think it's all about, reassuring the person, planning it really carefully, making sure that,
Mm.
you know, often people are concerned as their journey progresses with dementia, and certain things are absolute essentials for them. So knowing where the nearest toilet is, knowing how far they're going, knowing how long it's going to take, when they're going to go, when they're going to get back, and exactly what they're going to do is really, really clear and really key for them to feel
Mm.
really comfortable and happy about where they're going. And again, for us, it's, we have these wonderful things of cameras and phones, smartphones now. So to capture those moments of joy, because sometimes if people have got memory difficulties, they may not remember that some of these opportunities they really do enjoy. They really are very
Mm.
special. So taking photographs of the things that you do, whether you're, the picnic and sitting, by a lake and having that special time together, and the things that you
Mm.
notice, the wildlife, the nature, taking some pictures of that so that you can actually flick through that and reminisce when you get back. And so to try and encourage somebody to go, gosh, didn't we have a lovely time? Let's do that again. So again, it's all about that sort of
Mm.
helping to see the position from the person living with dementia, because sometimes for them, they can feel quite anxious. So it's just lots
Yeah.
of reassurance, lots of encouragement.
And I think also it's key to understand, we are absolute advocates of getting outdoors at Dementia Adventure. And I can hear, Courtney, you've loved being out there as well with music. But for somebody who maybe is a little more of an introvert, for somebody who maybe just enjoys quietly reading, or maybe somebody who quite enjoys doing a jigsaw at a table, if we're able to move that outside, are those benefits still applicable? So I guess what I'm asking is it about making it meaningful for that person, or is it really about the making it about nature? Gordon, I'll come to you with that.
Absolutely. It's about meaning and purpose for the individual. Because what we sometimes forget is the outdoor space is a free environment and it has health and well-being benefits. And we can do all sorts of things out there. As you've just identified, Ruth, we know that there are certain people who love a good read. My mother is living with dementia. She still loves her newspaper, but rather than sitting in a chair indoors, going and reading her newspaper outdoors, then she gets those health and well-being benefits without even realizing. So it gives her that mood boost, it gives her that stimulation, and it will have an impact on her sleeping and eating patterns. And so, yeah. Also, some people are, like to do puzzles, Sudoku. Sometimes even a telephone call, because
Mm.
if a family friend or friend is ringing, rather than sitting in the chair, take the call outside, because then it also gives the person on the other end of the telephone to say, oh, where are you? What's happening in the garden? What can you see? Because sometimes conversations can be a bit stilted, and conversations can be difficult. Whereas if you've got an environment that you have the opportunity to talk about what you can see from your window, from your chair, or if you're outdoor in the garden, you can then share that experience and start
Mm.
chatting about something that connects you. So yeah, small things can make a huge difference. And it isn't about what you do, it's just about enabling the person, well, both carer and person with dementia, to see that outdoor space is just another room. Utilize it, because it can be really, really stimulating to both of you.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think that leads me over to there's been a question about groups when doing this. And I know Gordon and I have both led our supported holidays, and there is something really beautiful about when we've got more than one people, you're part of a group. It's often much easier to go along to, you have almost that pack mentality, don't you? But Courtney, would you say that is there sort of like an ideal number? Can groups be too large? Can groups be too small? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's down to preference, isn't it? Because it can be quite daunting entering a large group as a lone person.
Mm,
But then when you're there, there's so much going on. I think it's down to the person because some may see it as a little bit intimidating if there's too many people and too much noise
yeah.
and then it becomes overwhelming. But personally, when we hosted ours on Tuesday, the large number was really impactful of residents and clients that were there and their relatives and the carers. It just made it even more joyous of a day.
And
Um,
did you find you needed to support that initial building of relationships when they got there, or was it quite a natural
No,
flow?
it was a
It was quite
really
natural.
natural engagement from everybody. Even toilet trips back and forth and going inside. One of our clients in particular, I thought, oh, taking a while, I'll go and check everything's okay. And sat at the table chatting to residents that weren't outside and weren't comfortable going out in the garden. So they were in the conservatory, enjoying the music and taking everything in. And our client was sat there, mixing and integrating with them. So it was it was lovely for us. But I can totally appreciate that some people may prefer a smaller setting, a more intimate
Yeah,
setting with a smaller group.
yeah.
It just was really fortunate that it worked well for us in a larger setting this time.
So I
But
guess the
every
message there
time,
is really, if you're working with groups of people, you understand your group dynamics, don't you? And it's kind
yeah.
of going with that and making the most of that. Because it
I
sounds
think
like
it's
you did have an
knowing your
absolutely amazing
clients and
time.
residents. Yeah, I mean, there's certain clients, if they had attended, we know they definitely would have preferred a more intimate setting and a quieter space.
Yeah,
But the people that we did have in attendance, they seem to really thoroughly enjoy the
amazing.
larger group.
We've had a really, really lovely comment in the chat, and it actually it just takes that little step back about, within the home. And Janet has said that she used to get her mum to help her peg out the washing. And actually, it wasn't always about the pegging out of the washing, it was about it providing the opportunity to just give something meaningful. Actually, can you come and help me do that? I think it's the approach, isn't it, we take sometimes that can be really key. I'd love your company. I'd really enjoy going to this picnic. Would you come with me? Rather than, oh, there's a picnic on, and I think you'll like this. Because I think often when we're living with dementia, people feel like things are done for them or, because of them. And I don't think it's fair to say any of us want to feel like that. So actually, that could be a really useful thing. But then Janet goes on to say she sees that as a really lovely opportunity to just extend that time in the garden. And I think that hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's about finding little ways that work for you. But I do think approach can be key. And Gordon, have you got any tips on how we can support people with that approach?
I think it's making sure that, as you've identified, it provides an opportunity for the person to be able to utilize some of their skills, interests. Because for my mother, for example, and I know for many people that we work with, obviously, as people's physical abilities decline, that doesn't mean that, they don't have a huge amount of knowledge, expertise that we can learn from. And so, my mother, is a great gardener. She knows so much about plants. And so I actually ask her, to come out and to teach me, because otherwise I'm just going to make a real mess of it. So I think, whatever that person's skills and abilities are, it's obviously still trying to identify that actually they're needed. They're wanted, and we can actually appreciate it, their offering and their support. Because
Mhm.
at Dementia Adventure, we are always considering how many times in a day is a person living with dementia getting the a thanks for a job well done or for doing some assistance. We know that the journey of dementia progresses, people need to receive increasing levels of support to help them to do the tasks that they've usually done independently. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still enable people to be able to help others. And that can be small tasks. And I know that, we've had pegging out the washing. We've obviously, there's all sorts of things, deadheading, sweeping up the leaves, helping and supporting, because then we can say, thank you so much. You've helped me so much. You've been a great help. I couldn't have done it without you. Because when somebody is congratulated and thanked for a job well done, we feel proud. We feel a sense of achievement. And people living with dementia are no different. They need to feel that pride. They need to feel small aspects of achievement because, again, that's what makes us feel, wanted, worthy, and actually part of a team. And I think, we want to try and maintain that in as many ways as we possibly can, whether that's indoors and helping to ball the socks, fold the washing, sort out the tea towels, simple tasks. But actually, whatever we can do to enable the person to get involved in a small way. I know for carers, it's often easier, they feel it's easier to then do a lot of those tasks themselves because they're faster. So again, it has to be done so that you can still achieve what you need to in a day. But increasing that involvement, doing things together is really, really important.
Brilliant. Okay, so I think this brings us, I'm going to start rounding up the conversation. And I just think it's been really, really helpful to kind of unpack. Actually, we can do things as a group, accessing local groups of support, can be a really lovely way to encourage people to get out, your local memory cafe, like Courtney was talking about, right the way through to, do you know what? Sometimes it's just taking that step into the garden. So I am going to both ask you both. I'm going to put you on the spot, I'm afraid. And I'm going to say to you, Gordon, finish this sentence. One easy activity anyone could try is in the garden.
Well, I think it's really nice to grow plants. And so I think there's so many opportunities of buying small plants in the garden, potting them out, potting them up, putting them on a windowsill or putting them outside the back door, whether that's flowers, whether that's strawberry plants. I think it's always nice to nurture something and have responsibility for looking after something. So I think, having a little project, whether that's a sunflower competition, whether that's growing strawberries that you're going to eat and then pop them outside the back door, but actually have something that you can actually work on together and grow something, and even if it's something small.
Brilliant. I'm going to come to you, Courtney, and ask you the same thing.
I have not got green fingers, guys. I am not a very talented person, especially when it comes to gardening. So my go-to would probably be, I'm a big people watcher. So if you're fortunate enough to have a front garden, I would definitely recommend just sitting out there and taking in the world. If not, just sit there and listen to your favorite songs. And if you're fortunate enough to have company, taking turns, I'll pick a song, you pick a song, and you can discuss memories of the song, why it's your favorite. I think that's something, I'm biased. That's something I would enjoy doing.
Yeah, no, Courtney, I'm with you. I am all about watching people. I think that's lovely. It's really brilliant. Thank you so much for both of you for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to unpack this. Courtney, thank you again for sharing your experience of running the Big Green Picnic. It sounded like an amazing time that you both had. So we will be running another Understanding Dementia Better. No, we won't. We'll be running another Unpacking Dementia next month. So keep your eyes on our socials for those. Thanks for joining us and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.